Greetings, I'm Solidus-Skully, and welcome back to the Devil May Cry commentary as we are holding the Key of Ardor. And, yeah, this is... well, I mean, to kind of jump the gun a little bit, this is actually going to be the last mission in which you'll have to, well, sort of have an in-between phase. I mentioned beforehand about grinding orbs and all that kind of stuff, but, yeah, you know what, I'll say that when I get to it. I should really reorder my priorities. In the meantime, however, since we are holding the Key of Ardor, yeah, it's, burning a bit of a hole in Dante's pocket. Quite literally in this case, since your health is progressively draining, and you need to haul ass and make sure that Dante is there to, well, there to survive, put the key in the door, and, you know, make tracks towards our final confrontation. Of course, it's not going to be too easy, as we have Phantom breathing down our necks, but don't worry, thanks to the power of Alastor and Devil Trigger, you can make short work of her, and she just continues to dissolve into bloody chunks. Oh, well, lava chunks. I mean, if this was Resident Evil 4, she would have melted into bloody chunks, because, yeah, the design of Phantom is literally just, you know, it's just the same sort of spider enemy from Resident Evil, just with red blood. And then they replaced it with lava. Because fuck it, why not? Anyway, Sin Scythes. Air Raid, which is the ability where you actually get to fly around with. No elevation, mind you, so, you know, you're just sort of hovering around the arena, shooting lightning down on your enemies. Make short work of people. Eventually nerfed in Devil May Cry 3, because apparently Hideki Itsuno doesn't want us to have fun. Okay, well, I mean, I can see why they did decide to make it a little bit less broken, as it does kind of go into Devil May Cry 1's, balancing both guns and swords philosophy in terms of the combat schema, but, rather shamefully, I just prefer utilizing both guns and swords as opposed to being like, oh yeah, I did a stick skin, bruv, with my fucking trickster swordmaster shit, which 3 focused on a wee bit too heavily, mind you, and eventually the games became less about being stylish with the tools that you have and more just about flipping through 2 or 3 weapons, getting the ultra stylish ranking. Whoopee. Yeah, it's just thankful that they learned the right lessons from this game in terms of enemy dynamics, otherwise, they'd probably be a little bit more negative about the later games in the series, and that's saying something. Because, a lot of people love them, and, yeah, rather surprising here. Guess what rank I get? An S rank! I was actually quite surprised. I'm not used to doing well in video games, so, yeah, I mean, to kind of go off the self-deprecating topic, I mean, it does kind of show why it is very lucrative for you to get S ranks in the levels. You're rewarded with more orbs, and as a result, more abilities, so, yeah, I mean, it does incentivize you to play well. It's just that the ranking system is very stingy and has very high demands for you. Editing point? And that's because, well, yeah, this is the only point of the game without it affecting your mission structure, where you can actually go around and, you know, apart from showing off the abilities there, this is the only real place that you can go off and grind without it affecting your mission structure and getting like a C or a D rank. Why only this level specifically and not like a mission select, I have no idea, but I guess they eventually saw this in Devil May Cry 2 and thought, okay, let's implement a mission structure where we can go back to previous missions, upgrade better abilities, and bada bing, we do the thing, except Devil May Cry 2 has problems of its own, and we'll get to that next year when we cover that game. But anyway, these are some of the new moves we got. Namely, we have, fuck, I forgot what it was called. Basically, where you get to throw Alastor and, you know, have it do a little bit of all this, and, if you choose to continue attacking as Dante by pressing the, triangle button, yeah, you can actually have Dante, do a little bit of fist fighting. Which wasn't one of the initial concepts of Devil May Cry, but was added in a little bit later on, as a few things got changed here and there in terms of weaponry. I mean, let's just say that if it wasn't for this little thing right here, we might never have gotten a certain power-up that we'll be seeing a bit later, but in any case, we've powered up, got a fair few demonic items under our belt, just in case we need them, and it certainly would have come in handy had I used them against fucking that 3 Shadow mission, so, yeah. But then again, I've already said my piece on that. I suppose potentially I could have done like a second playthrough where I maybe would have shown off one of the alternate skins, or perhaps Super Dante, in order to show off all the secret missions, but I just didn't really think of it, and I just couldn't really be bothered, I suppose. So yeah, in the meantime, though, it just sort of leaves us in a bit of a dichotomy. Whatever. I guess if you want to see the secret missions, find another playthrough, or find another person who could be asked. I was potentially thinking about it as a bonus video, but the bonus video that I do have planned is, talking about a few other things, but... Yeah, I guess to kind of keep the conversation flowing in the meantime, yeah, let's kind of discuss the difficulty. Devil May Cry 1 is... well, I mean, it's not the most difficult game in the world, but it is definitely going to give you a 3 AM wake-up call if you're not used to action games, well, challenging you. The difficulty mode is actually rather bizarre as well, because, oh, sorry, I was distracted by silly visuals. The difficulty mode is... you pretty much start off on normal mode, I'll say that much. You got the ability to choose, you know, in the main menu, but that's just because I completed the game before. Again, you start off with normal mode. If you happen to suck and end up dying 3 times and using the golden orbs to retry, that will pretty much net you the easy automatic difficulty. What separates it from a regular easy mode is that, well, yeah, your combos are simplified and, you know, you don't really have to have a lot more complex movements to fire your guns or, you know, utilize a lot of Dante's abilities. They're pretty much done for you by pressing the triangle button to regularly attack, so yeah, that's pretty much how Dante does his regular thing, really. Where easy automatic does sort of come into play is you basically need to fail in the early parts of the game, and then it'll pretty much, well, I don't know if this has changed the HD versions or not, but, yeah, that will apparently lock you out of getting the must-die mode, so, interesting. I was intending to showcase the easy automatic stuff for this playthrough, but by the time you complete the harder modes, or by the time you actually complete your first playthrough without getting easy automatic, yeah, you don't get to access it, which is kind of bizarre. Later Devil May Cry games will give you the option of having an easy mode and easy automatic if you so choose, starting with 3, but yeah, we don't really get to see much of anything else. That's not to say that hard mode or Dante Must Die mode don't have some flourishes of their own, because they're more than just, you know, enemies have heavier defense and, you know, they have more powerful attacks and take off more health. No, they actually do put the work in to actually give them a few differences. On hard mode, your Devil Trigger won't recover any more health, you know, as you've been seeing throughout the games. And, yeah, I mean, apart from, you know, the tertiary enemies have beefier attacks or whatever, it's basically just stepping up the difficulty a notch. And, with the Must Die mode, well, yeah, same rules apply, except enemies take on even more damage, your Devil Trigger doesn't regenerate health, and, well, even worse for you, enemies themselves do in fact have a Devil Trigger of their own that they will unleash against you. Dante Sparda Esquire, which activates after a certain time threshold. I think it's about after like a 30 seconds to a minute. So, yeah, keep on your toes and keep it freaky, stay sleazy, and ensure that Dante doesn't become, well, a must-died man. A Dante sandwich. As the ancient demon of Barton Burton had once stated, as he yelled out for Cantispia. You love me. I don't know if this is any actual language, or just a woman singing random Latin gibberish. 3 eyes. Interesting. We've seen that face before. Like, back in the Center Cathedral. Well, I'm sure there's nothing in the main hallway that will be anything interesting to reference as we are quite literally walking on top of where we started the game, really. So, yeah, this is where Trish jumped up to, and we had to take, like, 7 chapters and missions in order to get here. Oh, poor Dante. Has to do everything the hard way. And so we have our final battle against Phantom, and I guess now I can finally talk about her enemy dynamics. In terms of how Devil May Cry really sort of gets you to grips with its combat system. Yeah, with the puppets you could more or less get away with, you know, just sort of spamming attacks and not really worrying about defense. Phantom on the other hand, well, she's having none of your shit, and she's very much gonna be playing defensively, so yeah, you can sort of attack her face straight up, or, you know, attack the center, the center of her body, hop on her abdomen, but yeah. Let's just say she's very heavy on the offensive. She will block your attacks and, you know, make Dante stagger a little bit, so you do also need to be, you know, jumping up and down to and through. Avoiding not only her attacks like the little flame pylons and stuff like that, but you also really need to focus on, well, You know, drawing her out with a few bullets, jumping on top of her abdomen and, you know, laying the smack down, and avoiding a few of her meteor attacks, as well as her, you know, Malacoda, the evil tail that, well, she likes to flout. But needless to say, you can make short work of her using stuff like Air Raid, which is absolutely delicious, but that only lasts so long as your Devil Trigger is there. And also provided you don't get punched in the face by her playing baseball. I guess she just likes playing childish games with Dante. But yeah, regardless, if you're not prepared for it and you're not, you know, adequately beefing up your health and defenses, well, let's just say that you've got a lot to look out for, but yeah, it's nothing too difficult if you know how to keep on the move and just know how to constantly study her attacks and pick your moment to strike, because otherwise, well, yeah, you're gonna end up as a Phantom sandwich. And speaking of Phantom, this is the last time we'll be seeing her, so fare thee well, Phantom. Sorry we murdered your babies. Rest in peace.
You're right. I'm his son, Dante. Sweet dreams.
Incredible power.
Very interesting. Yes, indeedy, we see that lady vested under a green mantle, vested in living flame, which is quite odd actually, because her powers are lightning-based. Quite curious, but then again, I suppose that is meant to be reflective of light. You know, Beatrice. Eventually, well, to kind of talk about the Divine Comedy a little bit, as we're just sort of exploring around for blue orbs. Yeah, she ascended into the circles of heaven. She actually became so divine that her radiant beauty and her inner light was actually so blinding that if men looked at her while standing immolated in flames, they would feel serene and at peace. And even Dante was blinded by her, well, not just her beauty, but in turn her radiance as she was accepted into God's graces, so yeah. For a man's girlfriend, that's... I don't know what you really consider with that thing. That's just like the ultimate level of virtue, I suppose. But then again, I suppose such is the case when you, you know, invest in very holy tombs and such. Regardless of such, though, I'm just sort of having one last little reconnaissance mission wandering around before we get that little trident over there, and if you remember, all the way back into part 1, where we saw the face of Oswald Spencer, yeah, use that trident, stab it into a thing, unlock the gates, and then we can finally make tracks to the next area. Because Phantom is no more. What other beasts of the Divine Comedy shall we face? Are there any even based on it at all? Or are there some others that were just based purely on Resident Evil stuff? Who knows? I guess we'll just have to find out. However, it's also here where we also come across not just more, you know, lateral thinking puzzles. Well, puzzles, it's basically just hit thing to make stuff go now here. But in turn, we also get our next weapon, and it does also showcase that despite the fact that the Castellans from, you know, centuries ago have abandoned the castle, there have been many to come to this island in the years since, such as this soldier down here with a grenade launcher. It's likely that this was also a leftover of the Resident Evil kind of variety, so I guess this was maybe meant to be indicating that Umbrella soldiers had come down to this place to try and, well, I don't know, investigate the old goings-on with their founder, Oswald, who was a founder of Umbrella Inc. Yeah. By the way, you can also get out of there if you so choose, but you can't go back the way you came, because fuck it, why not? And I guess to talk a bit of Resident Evil trivia while we are at it, yeah... I'm not going to explain the early plot of, you know, Resident Evil 4 Devil May Cry just yet, but to kind of explain, you know, the role in which of Oswald Spencer, yeah, let's just say that he has ties with Tony Redgrave's origins, and well, yeah, the character eventually became split between two different beings, the first of which being Sparda, which is kind of obvious, Dante's father, Tony Redgrave, which probably would have had some very spoilery things that were later adapted into the Lost in Nightmares section of Resident Evil 5, and, yeah, then the rest of Spencer's role was eventually given to Mundus. And, there is actually some concept art that I do plan on showing off much later on, where you do sort of get to see where some of the concept ideas for Mundus' design really come into the play, and, well, how very Tyrant-inspired that all is. So, yeah, I mean, given the fact that the Tyrant project was Spencer's bread and butter as opposed to, you know, the very G-Virus-oriented William Birkin, or, the Leech-obsessed, bloody, Edward Ashford, no, not Edward Ashford, it was, fucking, James Marcus. God, I only fucking played Resident Evil 0 like 2 years ago, Jesus Christ. But yeah, anyway, you have a limited time to get beneath the gate, and, by the time we're done here, get all the blue orbs. That's pretty much all she wrote, so we're pretty much done with the first third of the game here, really, so, onwards to new adventures as we complete our mission, and go forth to explore the rest of Malay Island. Yeah, C rank. Probably because I was faffing about a bit too much, but hey, I got an S rank, so it all balances out in the end. So on that note, I'm Solidus-Skully, keep it new metal, and next time, well, more exploring in Malay Island. Catch you dudes and dudettes later.
Let's rock, baby.